Hi, my name is Andy Reese, and I'm with the Freedom Resource, and David has asked me to share a few vignettes out of our ministry. There are certain foundations that we rely on when we minister, and I want to share some of those with you real quickly. And I want to start with a story. There was a young lady who lived with us for a while, and we talked about some issues in her life. And one of the things she said one night is she said, "Well, God took my mom, and I know I'll learn a good lesson from that." And I asked her, I said, "What would it mean to you if God didn't take your mom? What would it mean to you if God really didn't want your mom to die, but she did? What would that mean to you?" And she kind of looked at the ceiling for a minute, and she said, "It would mean everything." And I think that that's really true for all of us. You know, I'm going to say something really obvious right now, but I want you to think about it, and that is, God is good, Satan is bad. Let's not get confused. I think that from the very beginning, Satan's primary ploy was to separate us from the source of intimacy and the source of love, and that's Papa God. And so with Eve, he tried to discredit God. He said, "Did God really say?" And he said, "No, God doesn't want you to be like him." And I think that that same thing happens to us. And we start to get confused over where the source of the trouble is and where the source of the help is. Not everything that happens is God's will. I know that may sound strange to you, but God says that he would that no one perishes, and yet people perish. And so it just seems to me when I think about it, I say that means that the things that lead up to people perishing are also not his will either. Now, we can't always sort out cause and effect and why this happened and why that happened, and we don't really need to. But Paul says this in Romans 8. He says, "This I know, if God is for me, who can be against me?" Or he says, "God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son." In other words, when I was the worst crud that I could ever be, when I was far from God and didn't even think about God, then God loved me. So how much more, now that I'm a child, does he love me? How much more? Jesus said that the evil one comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I've come that you might have life and have it abundantly. So ask yourself, if it looks like stealing, if it looks like killing, and it looks like destroying, it's probably not God. But if it looks like abundant life, it probably is God. When Satan comes at us, it's vague. He accuses us, it's vague. There's no way out, and it's all about who I am. And because it's who I am, there's no way out from who I am. But when God convicts us, it's specific. There's a very simple way out, and it's all about what I've done, not who I am. And so I want to ask you this question, just as we kind of start out this series of vignettes, and that is, what would it mean if each one of us has something in our life where we've thought about God in a certain way? We thought of him as harsh, we thought of him as distant. Our picture of God is maybe Abraham Lincoln sitting in that chair on at the quadrangle in Washington, D.C., and we're somewhere off watching him, and he's stern. But let me ask you this question. What would it mean if he's not like that at all? What would it mean if he's happy, he's having a good day, he's really pleased with you, and he's excited, and there's a spot on his lap for you? What would that mean to your life? Let me tell you this. I know what it means to my life to know Papa loves me. You have an enemy, but it's not God, and you can trust Papa. Thank you.